Hello and welcome to our number talk. Today we are looking at the expression 12 times 16. What we do in a number talk is we use mental math. That means no paper, no pencil, to try to solve this expression, and then we look at all the different ways we could have figured it out. So let's go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and pause the video, figure out 12 times 16. When you have your answer, unpause it. We'll look at all of our strategies together. So let's first look at the distributive property. What this does is this lets us break apart, and that's our breaking apart property, and lets us do some partial products to make a big problem a little bit easier to handle. So if you notice, we took our 16 and we're really going to break this apart into 8 plus 8. We just cut it in half, 8 plus 8. So I'm going to take that 12 and I'm going to distribute it out to both of those addends to get my partial products. So instead of 12 times 16, we're going to do 12 times 8. So I'm just going to multiply it by that half, and that's 96. Then I'm going to add the 12 times that other 8, so that's that other half, and there's my partial products, 96. And hopefully you got that together. 90 and 90 is 180, 6 and 6 is 12. So you should have 192. We could also use the distributive property. Instead of breaking that 16 in half, let's just break it apart using place value. So some of you might have done this. You might have said that 16, let's just view that as a 10 plus 6. We're still going to use that distributive property. So we're going to multiply the 12 by the 10, and then the 12 by the 6, and add those up. So it's really 12 times 10, so that's super easy. It's 12 with a 0. And then we're going to add in that 12 times 6. And if we know our 12s, that's pretty easy. That is 72. And so we're going to add up our 120 and our 72, and we're going to get back to our, obviously, same answer of 192. Another way we can do the distributive property is to keep that 16 right where it is. And let's break up that 12. So we can first break up that 12 in half, 6 and 6, to get us two addends, so we can distribute out the 16 and get our partial products. So it's really 6 times 16 is what we're going to do right there. And that, once again, is 96. And then we're going to do another 6 times 16. It's another 96, because 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times that 10 is 60. And then add it together, we come back to our 192. We could also use the distributive property to break apart that 12 into place value. Think of it as expanded form. 10 plus 2, and then multiply each of those addends by 16. So let's figure out what that's going to be. That's pretty easy. 10 times 16, well, anything times 10 is easy, because that is going to be that number, 16, with a 0. And then we're going to do a 2 times 16, and that's going to get us just double 16, so that's 32. And that's going to get us 192. Now, we could also use doubling and halving. Now, this is pretty fun. What we do is we take our two factors, 12 and 16, and we're going to take one and we're going to double it. So let's take our 12 and let's double it up to 24. And you notice we've got two 24s here. Now, in order to keep a balanced expression, if we're going to double one, guess what we got to do to the other? We got to cut it in half. So if we take one and double it, we take the other factor, we have it. And that's why we've got this 16 cut in half. We're going to get rid of half of it to where it's just 8. Guess what? 12 times 16 is the same thing as 24 times 8. So we've got our 4 times 8, that's 32. And 20 times 8 is 160. And put the 32 and the 160 together, you're going to get your 192. But that could be an easier problem. We can also double and half the other way. Since both of our factors are even, we could do it both ways. This time, we're going to take our 12, and we're going to cut that in half. That's why we've got this 6 as a gray line right there, which means we're going to take our 16 and we're going to double it. So we're going to take our 16 and we're going to double that up to 32. That's why we got 2 16s. And then we'll do the same thing. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 30 is 180. Add those together. 192. Finally, let's look at some associative properties. So the associative property, this is going to be our grouping property. So this lets us take 3 or more factors. If you're doing addition, 3 or more add-ins, and just regroup them as you want to, because it all ends up the same no matter how you multiply them. So we're going to take our 12 and we're going to reimagine it as 6 times 2. Because that's really what 12 is. It's 6 times 2. So now I've got 3 factors. Instead of 12 times 16, I'm going to do 6 times 2 times 16. And the associative property lets me simply regroup these. I'm going to shift my parentheses. You notice I'm still multiplying the same 3 numbers. I'm still multiplying it 6 and 2 and 16. I'm just going to group the 2 and 16 first. So I just want 2 groups of 16. So that's what I've got right here. 2 groups of 16. So that's going to get me 32. And as you notice, I've got 6 groups of 2 groups of 16. So I'm just going to skip count by 32s. And that's going to get me 64, 96, 128, 160, and then back up to my 192. So that's how the associative property works. We can also do it this way. We could keep our 12 together, and let's just break up our 16 into a 4 by 4. So we're going to keep 12, and we're going to take that 16 and reimagine it as 4 times 4. And then we're going to do a little bit of shifting. We're going to regroup. We're going to put the 4 and the 12 together. Now, I do have the commutative property here because I want to reorder this. Right now, it looks like I've got 12 groups of 4. I'd rather not have 12 groups of 4. I'd rather have 4 groups of 12. The commutative property just lets me reorder factors. If you're dealing with addition, it lets you reorder the add-ins. And then I want to do another commutative property. I want to get this 4 outside of the parentheses up front. 4 times 12. There we go. I've got 4 groups of 4 groups of 12. So here are my 4 groups of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is going to be 48. And I've got 4 groups of 4 groups of 12. And that's going to just skip count by 48. So that's 96, 144. And as always, ending up as 192. So if you found another way, that is wonderful. Go ahead and drop that as a comment on the video. Teachers, if you would like a copy of the slide deck for your own use in the classroom, you can find it on my website, 5minutemath.net.